Welcome back to Trails in the Sky. Last time we took care of all of our unfinished business before heading to Genis Royal Academy because, yep, it's literally written right there in your Bracer book. We should wrap up any unfinished business before heading out. Once you head to Genis Royal Academy, that is kind of a point of no return for this chapter, and that's where we'll be going. To the east. Let's go. I did mention, though, there are a couple of enemies on the road to the Academy that I didn't want to fight back when we first got here, because I have the opportunity to later. I'm going to take said opportunity now. In fact, yeah, guess we'll fight this thing. These things are on the Orient Causeway as well. Flying Moth, that's kind of redundant. What kind of moth doesn't fly? Anyway, they can call for backup, and Moth Flyers. Kind of a reversal there. But, only attacks females. Interesting, I didn't know they did that. Yeah, I actually don't often play this game with the information quartz on, because most of the basic information about the enemies I already know. Also, nice redundant petrify there, because these things are all going to die anyway. But yeah, it does point out some interesting things sometimes. Also, they drop Time Seepeth, which is always great. Not a lot of Time Seepeth, though, sadly. You gotta wonder just how tough the students must be if the road to school is infested with monsters. I've already fought one of those things, I think. I know there's a boar-type enemy around here that I have not fought yet, so let's see if one of them wants to show up. There we go, actually both of them showed up. These things. They're actually kind of hard to get preemptive strikes on, because as you can see, they're constantly spinning in circles. Yeah, baby gourd boars. Heavily weak to magic, they use a charge attack they learn from their parents. These things are generally pretty weak. They're only really a threat when you fight them with their parents, obviously. They are pretty evasive, though, I find, as you can see there. Joshua seems to be pretty accurate, though. And they're not giving much experience, so yeah, as you can tell, it's not really all that worth fighting these things. And yeah, I didn't even get a preemptive, because yeah, it's hard to know where the back, like, it's hard to hit these things from behind, given they're constantly spinning. It's a very, very strange enemy design, honestly. But yeah, the charge attack can knock you out. That is telling you they can inflict feint. But honestly, they're really not that bad, especially if you petrify them. And can you actually get into range? Yes, you can, so I don't even need to use Comfort. That's probably the wrong way to pronounce it. I'm pretty sure a comment did tell me the right way to pronounce it. I'm gonna have to look that up on my own time. Anyway, I think that's actually everything we can fight in these areas. Ah, hi there. Please don't get instant death on me. You did not. Good. Yeah, I might be thinking about the second game when it comes to them getting instant death. I know they do that a lot in the second game. Yeah, haven't seen them do it here, thankfully. Anyway, not really all that much else to see here, so it's time to head into Genis Royal Academy. The non-Officers Academy of the Zemurian continent. There actually is an Officers Academy, but that one's in Erebonia. In a way, this place was kind of a precursor to the setting of Cold Steel. There's also pretty nice music here. Of course, Josh was thinking about studying. So, yep, that's our job. Prepare for the campus festival. Even though school festivals are a very Japanese thing, this does remind me a lot of open days that I often have in most of the schools that I went to. So our first destination is the Dean's office to meet the guy in charge of the whole academy. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing him because, well, yeah, there are very obvious jokes you can make about this guy. So, Genis Royal Academy is going to be our new base of operations for a short while, and because of that, I want to acquaint you with the area. This is one of the few places where I don't like to have the camera pointing north. I find it actually looks better to point the camera to the east. Anyway, this is the girls' dorm. Over on the opposite side is the boys' dorm. Up here, we have the auditorium, which we can actually enter, and it does look kind of cool. In fact, if you go up here, you can get a bit of an interesting camera angle. No real reason to go here just yet, though. So auditorium is there, and here we have the main building. the main schoolhouse, that is. You can enter via several different entrances. Underneath this bridge is an area that we'll be exploring a little later. You can go there now, but there's no real reason to. This is the clubhouse. We'll be going there a little bit later on. And at the clubhouse, I actually want to stop by the cafeteria, which is here. Yep, looks like you're going to be pretty busy soon. And we're going to buy the Genus lunch, because obviously that's a recipe. So yes, we now know this school's signature recipe, thus devaluing it a bit, I guess. The only other thing they sell is vegetable sandwich, though. But we will be getting a ton of recipes relatively shortly. So there's actually quite a lot you can do in the schoolhouse in terms of talking to the NPCs. I would recommend you do this if you're playing this game on your own time, because all the students have their own unique names and personalities, and they all go through little mini arcs over the course of your visit to the academy. In this playthrough though, just for the sake of keeping these videos concise, I'm really just gonna do the bare minimum for the most part, but if you're playing on your own time, like I said, I highly recommend that you talk to all the students, because there's a lot of really interesting NPCs here. But anyway, here's Dean Collins, or as I like to call him, Dean Dumbledore, because seriously, this is basically just Dumbledore's design from the first two Harry Potter movies. This game was 2004, I'm pretty sure, yeah, the Harry Potter movies would have been already out by then. I think the first one came out in around 2001, I think I was in 4th grade at the time. So yeah, I wonder if this guy was deliberately modelled on Dumbledore. Anyway, time to introduce ourselves, and yeah, we're pretty young. Word travels quickly. But, at the moment, the only thing we can do to help the students is to put on this play. You definitely don't want to underestimate the importance of moral support. Those children have been through something really, really awful. They could really use the play. I don't know why, but that reminds me of something from my primary school or grade school in America. There was a thing called the school pledge, and it ended with "to the best of my ability." And I, as a kid, thought that was a meaningless phrase that just signified the end of a pledge. Like, I was like 6 at the time, just to point out. So, turns out we'll actually be sleeping here. This is why it's a bit of a point of no return. Once you sleep here, you can't go back to the rest of Ruin until the play is done. And because of that, you will lose access to all of the side quests. Oh, there's no cool Fire Emblem themed bell for this place. So, it'll be time to introduce ourselves to Jill, the Student Council President. 2nd floor of the clubhouse, let's go. Ah, okay then. So talking to the Dean a second time gives you a bit of a funny hint as to what's to come. My notes also say I should talk to a teacher in the upstairs classroom. Yeah, you do get a little bit of information on Chloe here if you talk to the teachers. Yeah, I'm sure they could give her a special exception considering the orphanage incidents. And, oh no, more homework. Pretty sure Chloe's okay with that kind of thing, though. And yeah, here's Logic. We met him back in town earlier. You can actually meet a lot of the students on your first visit to Ruin. Well, it kinda has been now. Logic doesn't really pay much attention to school events. He's more into just you know, academic work. So the decorations is kind of a hint as to something that will be coming later, but I like how all of the students greet Chloe. I guess while I'm upstairs I can show the natural sciences classroom. We're going to be doing that the moment the festival hits. So as they said, clubhouse, second floor. Before we go into the student council room though, there's a place called Material Archives, and my notes say to talk to this guy here. Hey, it's Roy! Is he our boy? Well, hopefully he's not as pathetic as the other Roy. Actually, he probably is even worse, since this Roy is just an NPC who never participates in combat at all. So, that's your introduction to those two. They're not really relevant to anything overall, but they have a kind of weird relationship. Okay, just a quick thing. Before you enter the student council room, it might not be a bad idea, and don't worry, this is not implying anything really bad happens, but it might just be a good idea to remove all decent quartz from Joshua. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to remove all of them. Just saying, it might not be a bad idea. Speaking of weird relationships, here is Jill. You'll soon know why I'm saying that. This actually kind of reminds me of when we kind of had to organize sort of a carnival day back in the last year of primary school. Okay, then. Well, Estelle and Josh will already have a bit of a preview of what they're getting into. So, these two are actually Chloe's closest friends on the campus, so we'll be seeing a lot of them over the course of the short academy arc. And cue flame Hyanard jokes, I'm so sorry. I can't see the phrase burn to the ground without hearing that in my head constantly. Ah, curse you, Mega Man X7. Never actually played that game, but I've seen a lot of footage of it and it looks pretty bad. Oh yeah, well, we're the ones who are about to be tortured, take part in this play. Joshua's being incredibly polite here. And by helping, she means, well, like I was saying before, torture. You'll see. It's kind of funny how Jill is one of the few NPCs in this game to have a last name, and Jill in Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is one of the few characters in that game to have a last name. So, this is the director. And this is Vice President Hans. Now, there are a lot of Hanses in fiction who are evil, so hopefully you're following their footsteps. I just noticed that, like Hans in Fire Emblem Fates, Hans in Frozen, Hans Gruber in Die Hard. Why is it just, it's a name that people like to give villains for some reason? We're which is probably bad for all the people in real life who are named Hans. This is an advantage of hiring braces. We might not have great acting skills. Well, I'm pretty confident in Joshua's, but Estelle not so much. But they do have combat training, so at least they can do their own stunts. Okay, then that's pretty out of the blue. Chloe actually is trained in sword fighting, so this is probably not going to go well for Estelle. And that explains why they wanted someone who was trained in combat. And, yeah, seems like... yeah, seems like this school is pretty short on people who have anything above an E rank in swords. Bit of slight backstory there. Yeah, Chloe definitely does seem to be able to handle a rapier. Well, again, Estelle's not a professional rapier user. She's a professional blunt weapons user, which is very different. Estelle and Chloe are already becoming fast friends. I like that. Meanwhile, what is Joshua gonna do? And this is interesting. I don't like those eyes. Yeah, this is what Chloe was saying before about it being a bit embarrassing. And Hans clearly knows what's going on. Joshua, I would suggest running away right now. And yep, remember when I said the White Magnolia Inn was not the namesake of this chapter? This is the namesake of this chapter. Yes, the chapter is actually named after the play. I wonder what story that reminds me of. Yes, it does, but there's a duel between the knights, apparently, so... Well, at least we're gonna take their word for it. It ends happily. But for who? Yep! This is what Joshua unintentionally signed up for. And, by the way, this quote right here, this was one of the first screenshots of this game that I ever saw. It was on one of Falcom's localization blogs for it. So, yeah, just a funny story about my early experiences with this game. I forget if that was before or after I'd first played Cold Steel. I think it was during. I think it was during. So, yeah, looks like we don't need to worry about Hans being evil. Jill is the real evil one here. So, as it turns out, that whole thing about it being a bit embarrassing, you can probably put two and two together. Joshua is playing the princess in the love triangle between Estelle and Chloe. That is true. But yeah, these outfits actually do make sense if you know what the Royal Guard captains look like. We haven't actually seen a lot of the actual Royal Guard, we've only seen the regular army of Liberl. actually think these outfits do look pretty cool. It always makes me wish this game had, like, alternate costumes you could equip in battle. I know that Cold Steel does. But, yeah, sadly this game doesn't. The Azure Knight Oscar. Wait a minute, no, that's totally wrong. Oscar wears green. I'm thinking of the wrong Oscar. And the Ruby Knight Julius. So, clearly, this is not Fire Emblem because it would be a Verdant Knight and a Ruby Knight in that case. Yep, Joshua is the princess. And we're about to bear witness to his glory. I'm so sorry, but I don't think you'll ever be in the moment. Come on out now. Wait for it. Here it is. Yep, that expression says it all. He is actually kind of Bishonen enough to pull it off, honestly. Estelle is gonna tease him about this for the rest of his life, isn't she? This is one of those moments where I really wish we got full voice acting for this game in English, because I can just imagine Johnny Young Bosch just, like, being completely deadpan about this whole thing. That would just be amazing to hear. Actually, wait a minute, this is the second time, as far as I know, that Johnny Young Bosch has voiced a cross-dressing character. And considering how much he got into it with Yu Narukami, I can really imagine how well he'd managed to pull this off if this game had full voice acting in English. So, yeah, I forgot to mention that the moment you go to the student council room, you are locked into the academy for the foreseeable future. We've already taken care of everything outside of the academy, thankfully. So, a little bit more info on these two. They've actually known each other for a little while, or at least as long as Chloe's been at school. More propositions? Oh. You're normally not that formal about it. I've always figured being friends is just something that kind of happens. Hopefully, Estelle is a better judge of character this time than she was with Josette. I don't really like these interactions, though. The Academy might be light on advancing the overall plot of this game, but it does have some really good character moments. Just the way these characters are written just feels just pretty genuine, I find, and the Academy really shows that. I kind of wonder what the term was there in Japanese. I wonder if it was like Ojo-sama or something. Though that reminds me of that very, very overly literal fansub of One Piece that insisted on keeping Ojo-sama in Japanese, even though it had a very obvious English equivalent that they could have used. Yeah. I suppose Estelle's never really had any close female friends growing up. Also, she's totally oblivious to what she just said right there. Yeah, I wonder if you don't have someone close living under your roof like always, right now. Estelle's great, but she is very dense sometimes. Like I said, she is pretty much a gender-flipped version of the typical shonen protagonist. And, well, add one more to the people falling for Joshua count. Once again, amazing dialogue. Yeah, mostly. To be honest, has she ever found out what Joshua thinks about the whole situation? And yes, those glasses. For an honestly relatively minor character in the grand scheme of things, they really went all out on Jill's portraits. Yeah, we kinda get that already. And awkward, nervous laughter. And Estelle, people in Roland were already saying things. You should be kinda used to this by now. Seems a bit late for a daily report. At least this student council president isn't anywhere near as overworked as the one in Cold Steel. We'll see that later, obviously. Estelle.exe has stopped working. Do you want to send a crash report? And rebooting. Unlikely life, yes. Of course. So, we actually have a bit of a time skip here. Because, like, to be honest, from a pure gameplay standpoint, there isn't really, also that's amazing, a lot for us to do at the Academy. Also, Estelle gets called out to answer a question in class, and obviously gets it wrong. And obviously Joshua's gonna get it right, isn't he? Yep, that teacher's professor level just increased. Yeah, kind of funny that I'm doing this around the same time I'm playing Three Houses. And of course, they sort of want to skip over a lot of the practicing for the play, because that wouldn't be all that engaging to have to sit through. And it did, because we time skip ahead to just before the festival is ready to go. Yep, the dialogue for this play is very flowery, as you can tell. Makes sense. I think Estelle's doing pretty well for someone who, one, probably doesn't have the best acting skill, and two, has only recently seen the script. Whenever I think of school plays, though, it keeps bringing me back to my childhood when I had the amazing role as Kid 4 in one scene, and there were only 3 kids in the original script. That should tell you everything about how small that part was. I had 2 lines. Yeah. Well, they've already got all the chairs out. Chloe probably has some kind of family trouble in her past. Real value of family, yeah. And I think she's about the same age as Estelle, so that'd make her 6 back then? So you aren't actually from here. No, not at all. And Estelle said the exact same thing I did again! Wow, really? Estelle just loves doing that, doesn't she? Probably mostly Jill. She's pretty proud of this whole thing. I wonder how Joshua's been going with learning his lines. Well, Estelle's seen him talk to people a lot. He definitely has the higher charisma of the group. Yeah, for all we know, he could. We don't really know much about just what Estelle's saying about his life before he joined the Bright family. Well, that's gonna make things really awkward, isn't it? Of course, he just has to enter right now, doesn't he? We definitely weren't talking about you or anything. Nope, nope, not talking about you at all. And Estelle definitely didn't just call you cute before. Nope, she didn't at all. Didn't say that. Yeah, I'm sure the duel's gonna go well. Why do I get the feeling that's just an excuse to get them out of the room? Well, looks like Joshua and Hans have been taken to talking as well, just like Estelle and her new friends. It is interesting, like, this whole part of the game definitely shows you that Estelle is really the main protagonist of the game, despite you spending most of your time with Estelle and Joshua together, because with Joshua separating from her for a bit, we still focus entirely on Estelle here. We don't actually get to see what Joshua got up to with Hans. Yeah, unfortunately you don't get to walk around the school in these outfits.